All right, g'day everyone. Welcome back to Terra Invicta. And I might sound a little bit different. The voice is going to be jumping around a little bit this episode because it was recorded in two parts as I'm trying some different sound setups. What you'll hear immediately after this is the first half of the episode that I recorded on the old kits. This is me trying something new. So if you have a preference for the sound in the first half versus the second half, do let me know. What we're going to be trying to do this episode is I want to jump through. We're in the middle of 2024. I want to get to 2026 and the space game, the true space game, as early as possible. So we're going to race through to some major events, and then we're going to stop and talk about the strategy going forward. Before we do that, I want to put in place some house rules. The reason house rules exist in these games is for a couple of reasons. The first is to make the playthroughs a little more difficult. The second is so we can see differences between various playthroughs. We can see more of what Terra Invicta has to offer. So with Exodus, I might want to do a more defensive play style, whereas if we were playing another Humanity First run, we might want to be hyper-aggressive. We might want to go for a Jupiter rush or very early aggression against the servants of the Protectorate, whereas we want to be a little bit more passive with Exodus. So it's an opportunity to both differentiate our playthroughs and at the same time also to be more thematic. So those are our three reasons: being thematic, differentiating playthroughs, and also difficulty. We'll jump into me talking through some of those rules. Actually, no, I'll just go through them now. The big ones, to bring all those things together. Firstly, we need to have good relationships with our fellow billionaires, the initiative, so I need to keep bribing them and stay on good terms with them for as long as possible. And in fact, in general, we're not really concerned with running face first into worldly affairs, so I'm banning any offensive military action. I can't declare new wars with any of the nations I control. Not even against the servants, not even against the Protectorate. I can fight the aliens, and I'm going to have to fight the aliens in order to get access to their technology and defend Earth long enough for us to get away. But there's no reason for me to go barreling in against servant-held countries, for example, at least not on this run. We're also going to be a little bit more conservative in the space game. That means places that we can't defend, so individual asteroids are out because we don't trade lives in Exodus, apparently. And Jupiter rush strategies or beyond that strategies, I'd ruled them out from the start because they're really more conducive to very aggressive playthroughs, and I want to save them for future aggressive playthroughs. What we're going to need to do then to put more pressure on the servants, the Protectorate, and also to hide behind proxies is we're going to have to back proxies. So we're going to want good relations with the executive, with the Humanity First, with the Resistance. We're probably going to want to feed them space assets, probably going to want to overbuild, in fact, our space assets, and then trade them off to power up their resource economies so they can do some of the terrestrial and also space combat for us. So looking at more of a, instead of us running headfirst into potential opponents, the way Hans Castillo would like to do, we're going to back the Resistance and whatnot. In terms of other things that make the game more thematic but also challenging, there's two big ones. And there'll be more listed in the description. We'll add more every episode. But here are the two big ones. The first is we need to understand the effects of long-term space inhabitants. This is the official reason. Long-term effects of space on the human body. And to that end, we're going to need to establish medical and tourism facilities around, at the very least, Mercury, Earth, Luna, Mars, Jupiter, and I might expand the rule to all the major areas in the solar system, all the major planets in the solar system as well. But that does require dialing up population numbers a lot. It's a big industrial challenge. The unofficial reason, of course, is because our very rich backers would love a holiday destination that's a little more exotic than they can find on Earth. Why on Earth would you, hit the beach in Australia when you could go to an empty, featureless Martian desert, or rather a station looking down at a featureless Martian desert? I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. The other aspect is in scientific research and testing. In Terra Invicta, it's assumed that when you come up with the idea for a drive or an engine for your ships, you know exactly how it's going to perform before it does. That means that there's only ever a reason in your average playthrough to pick a couple of drives. You only research the ones that unlock for you that you need, and then you build mostly those designs. But what if you couldn't assume those things? What if you were designing an interstellar spaceship and you really wanted to know everything there was about engines? What we are going to do, and I mean there are a lot of power plants in this game. We start with 5 chemical drive options straight off the bat before we've researched anything else. Normally you'd only use the Nova, and these other ones, the Venture, the Neutron, the Meteor, and the Apex, probably wouldn't see any use. But they are for us, because we have to research every drive that unlocks for us, and we have to build it at least once, and we have to test it in some way. Doesn't mean I have to always build a different drive and can't focus on building most of my ships with particular ones. And my first combat ships will probably use Novas, but we're going to have to go through and dump a lot of science and a lot of resources into building a lot of ships with often pretty terrible drives and get some use out of them just to test them and develop a practical base of understanding for our engineers and for our crew before we commit to a very, very long interstellar journey, if indeed that is the way we go. So those are the basic rules. What I'm now going to try and do is zip through some major events as we get towards the end of probably 2025, 2026, the point where our Mars bases are expanding and we're getting ready to act against the Hydra directly. And then we'll slow it down, take stock, and proceed with the rest of the episode. Sound change in 3, 2, 1.
All right, we now have nuclear freighters. So if I was to click, we can now found an outpost in 242 days. That is excellent. So if you look at this base will be finished in April 2025. But if I was, and that's a base we launched before. If I was to launch a base now, and I think we're in a good transfer window, April 2025. So even though we're launching later, because we're launching during a good window and with additional technology, it is both cheap, it's cheaper, and it's getting there at the same time. So I'm now going to spam out a bunch of bases on Mars. I have 24 boost, so I can start launching mines out to these bases as well. I could launch this outpost mine right now. It would get there in 272 days, for example. So I'll start laying out the Mars bases. I'll pick which locations are optimum. But generally, we want to get a good mixture of resources with a lot of base metal early because it's base and nobles, which we're getting here, that we're going to use to do a lot of our construction. As long as we have enough water and volatiles to pay maintenance, then we're in a good place. And jumping forward a little bit, I didn't actually create that third Mars base. I decided instead to put the mines out first and then launch additional sites. I just showed that one just to demonstrate the nuclear freighter's delivery time. I've started renaming our bases. So we've got lunar bases, Artemis and Athena, and then Kepler and Galileo on Mars. 2 mines are already operational on Luna, which is giving us a good resource flow, which should help reduce the cost of our Martian infrastructure. The first mine, Kepler, should be active in, I think that was May 2025. So May 2025, not bad. We'll have our first mining output from Mars and steadily expand the number of bases over time. We've also spotting a number of alien activities and got our first control point in the United States. And I have a theory. This constant string of alien activity in the US, coupled with the fact the US is not in great shape, makes me think that there are probably multiple alien operatives, multiple Hydra on Earth at this stage of the game, and they have to walk province to province. So I'm convinced there is probably a Hydra operative in the United States, probably another one over in Africa, based on the xenoflora, and probably another one hanging out around like Asia, Eurasia sort of region, just based on where the events have been dropping at various times. But I don't have the ability to detect them yet, and I don't have the ability to hunt them yet. We'll need to, though, just for story objectives and because they're aliens, they're fair game. We are, however, about to get alien origin, so let's race ahead to that. We have our first control point in the United States, and we're going to continue working on more once we have the control point opening to do it, which we don't yet, and we won't until we consolidate Germany in 71 days. That'll be a big control point free up for us, and it'll give us scope to do a little bit more work in the United States. So let's run this forward and get ourselves alien origins. What I've done is thrown up some xenology stations at the Tiangong station, just to give us a little bit more of a bonus there. May as well make use of the infrastructure we already have. It's possible we build some more later on. I've also got a secondary station, which again, these xenology labs, collectively that's a 40% bonus. Xenology labs are so effective when it comes to increasing output compared to all the other science lab types. Well, that's unfortunate. Just a few more days, and we should find out a little bit more. Geez, I'm not having a great time here, am I? It's just xenoflora. It's nothing too urgent. I'm guessing there's a Hydra over here. Here we are, alien origin. There are multiple theories about where the aliens hail from, running the gamut from plausible to absurd. Maddeningly, our further study of alien debris cannot quite be said to rule anything out. Judging by the isotope ratios of lead and some other elements, seems to originate from our most of it seems to originate from our solar system. while small amounts do not seem to be of local origin, and some are entirely unknown to us. Thus, our visitors do have an industrial scale presence within Sol's orbit. They almost certainly did not begin here.
We must learn how they arrived in our solar system, Director.
Okay, analysis of the alien habitats discovered through our Skywatch programs has provided a clearer picture of alien activities. It appears the aliens were not active in our solar system for long before first contact, perhaps a year at most. Their ability to build ships so quickly demonstrates remarkably advanced engineering, but the bigger question is obvious. If they have been here so recently, where did they come from? Many theories have been proposed, but two possibilities have attracted the most attention. First, that the aliens travelled here from another solar system via advanced but conventional propulsion methods, so they slow-boated. Secondly, that the aliens travelled here from another solar system using some unknown method of faster-than-light travel. Both possibilities are tremendously exciting. The first possibility implies the aliens have discovered some way to overcome all the hurdles that have thus far prevented us developing any kind of slower-than-light interstellar travel. The second possibility implies that our entire understanding of physics is wildly wrong. In either case, the aliens have the technology to travel between and settle the stars. If we could acquire this technology ourselves, ... and thus you see the difference in focus. Whereas the others are mostly worried about what the aliens are here to do, and for them, Origins is almost a secondary question. For Exodus, Origins is a central question because it points to the possibility of interstellar travel, and that's what they want to do. We now know that it's possible, actual, practicable interstellar travel. Other factions on Earth are focused on the aliens and their goals, supporting them or opposing them. But we see them as a means to an end. But what end? Completely leave the cradle project, which we will immediately do, because as you can see, if we research leave the cradle, which we will get 40 CP cap, which is enough for an entire control point in the US and then some, a new org, and 100 influence. So for 5,000 Xenology, which is not as much as it sounds like because we got that chunky 50% bonus, this will be done in June. That should massively increase our CP cap, and we'll get to discover whatever Exodus's unique org is. But for the moment, 56-day count until Germany joins the European Union and our hold in the United States can expand. Okay, Mars bases expanding. We are at 5 now. Mine started on all of them, but I will continue laying more and more. The red planet will belong to Exodus and become our industrial center. Mars will become the Forge world. If we can't go out to the asteroid belt, and if we can't rush Jupiter, because those are associated with more aggressive playthroughs, and I want to show that off eventually, Mars is really going to have to be it. So we're going to get as much output out of it as possible. But the reason I have started recording again is because speed things up.
I will report when my
We're
mission
also
is
going to set
complete.
policy in the European Union this turn, because time to bring our CP back under control. Germany, it's been swell, but it's time to join the Union. Initiative's doing space agriculture, that's fine. Although I don't find farming in space useful until later on, the higher level buildings. The initial ones I'm not a big fan of, the yield just isn't there. America is down to a mere insurgency, 4.7 unrest, but we've significantly increased its output. Saudi Arabia has declared war on Yemen and Iran. Great.
Mission complete.
Unification, Germany, bang. There we are. All right, that brings us back under cap, 244 out of 284. The European Union now has a population of 225 million. So the next objectives for the EU expansion are probably the UK, which I believe its cooldown is November. So by November, December, we're going to need these 2 points without pissing off the resistance overly much. That'll then let us merge the UK in and lift the European Union towards a peer status in terms of population with the US slowly, and also certainly increase its MC even more. You'll see that because of the difference in focus, America has 6 mission control points, the European Union has 51 going on 57, and there's already 6 in the UK and building out. So the space control is going to be done in Europe. I'm going to rely on the United States more for research, normally for military force, but without being able to declare offensive wars, that's mostly only going to be useful against the aliens if they attack. So I think the main focus of the US in this playthrough is going to be research to augment a space-focused European Union. Awesome. Point 2, identity blocks. Let's go for it. And I missed the pop-up, but Apparently things were not going so well in India. And the fact the unrest is down to 6 probably gives us a clue as to why. I'll be honest, I wasn't paying enough attention to India. It was split between the servants and humanity first. And then suddenly, there was a coup, which has thrown out 4 of the 5 control points, leaving the servants with the identity block and the rest wide open. It also turns out there is a megafauna rampaging in northeastern India, which is fighting the Indian military. So, great. I'm guessing that's because the servants were previously in control and they don't fight off xenoflora. Hence why we have megafauna spawning in their countries first. What I am considering doing is watching who takes these points, and then if these 2 get filled up, I might snipe 1 and then potentially go for the executive and then redo the priorities and abandon, because my thinking is if I'm able to do that and yet have non-aggression with the servants, they won't purge the points, preventing the servants taking India back over. So we might be able to block them by taking points, abandoning them, and then having a non-aggression pact with them in order to prevent them taking the country back over. I don't want the servants to have any superpowers. They're not in China. They're not in India. I don't have the CP, the bandwidth, or the aggression allowance to dig them out of their holdings in Africa. And the Protectorate is much better established in Europe than the servants are. So the only main servant holding was India. That is now no longer a thing, and I am all the happier for it. And okay, so I decided to go into India even though the servants weren't making headway, because it enabled us to recruit an org. Shira Calpurnia is, for the moment, our judge, jury, executioner, but without the executioner part. She was our best investigate espionage character, but she didn't have a lot of the relevant missions. But by going into India, we were able to get the research and analysis wing, which costs us money every month, but does give us ops income, +2 investigation, +2 espionage, +1 security, and critically, investigate, surveil, defend, and assassinate. So we now have something, a capability to take offensive, lethal action against opposing councillors if we need to. And obviously, since we know, I'm presuming, like most factions, there will be an objective to take out Hydra operatives at some point, Calpurnia now is potentially the one to do it. In order to get that done, though, she'll need much, much higher espionage. But with a few more administration points and a few more orgs, we should be able to shift this value up, hopefully to the point where it's serviceable, at least for the first Hydra operative. So for the moment, 1 spot in India. We'll see who claims these 2. We then might claim the executive, and at that point, we'll probably abandon. In the United States, we're down to 4.4 unrest, so science is coming up again. I'm trying to fix the basics of the country before we start worrying about actually getting more output out of it. First, we have to fix things like get that inequality down below 4 so that fragmentation isn't as much of an issue, get the unrest down. The knowledge is fine, the GDP is more than fine, so I'm not worried about the economy. I'm mostly worried about fragmentation, inequality, unrest, that kind of stuff, because it's hamstring our science output. Once that's under control, we can probably do more with the states. But we're going to need to abandon India and consolidate the UK before we can get more of a holding in the US in a serious way. Number of bars bases, for those keeping count home, is now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. With more to come. Only base 8 doesn't have a mine. Everything else has the mines shipped. So a lot of these will be coming online. I think Newton is December 2025. So everything that we've launched so far is coming online before the end of this year. So we may have started a little bit slower, but I think we're catching up at a reasonable clip. I can also establish an intelligence sharing agreement. I'm going to do one with the Resistance and anyone else who will take it. What this basically does is it duplicates the effect of having one of their councillors compromised. You can see all their agents, you get information on what they're doing, you get information on what they can see. Everything you would know if you compromise them, but it's by mutual consent. This will up our relations because we're going to hurt those relations when we purge them out of the UK. So we're going to need to establish an alliance and maintain that alliance as much as possible so that we don't end up going to war over the UK. I think that can be done as long as we keep providing gifts and contact and handshaking, etc. But the intelligence sharing agreement is a good start. And yeah, instantly, if we go over to the faction screen, it now shows penetrated, as if we had infiltrated the Resistance. And we now have understanding of their resources, their relations, all of their technology. We have full information on everything. So they now presumably have that on us as well. But as long as we have a non-aggression pact, that doesn't really worry me. Score some more free research points and influence because the first Martian base has been founded. Upon a red plain and under a hazy sky, the base commander descended from the landing craft. As we take our first steps on our new world, Armstrong and Gagarin and all the rest are walking with us. And we got Leave the Cradle, thanks to that bonus science. Bingo. Now we have definitive proof that interstellar travel is not a pipe dream. The question becomes whether or not not whether it is possible, but whether or not the time is right to pursue it ourselves. That is, maybe we should focus on saving Earth rather than leaving it, but here we are. We are, after all, in the midst of an apparently hostile invasion. Good point. But having weighed all the arguments, we have reasoned that this is but an irrelevance in the grand scheme of things. Any romantic attachments to humanity's ancient birthplace must now be shed, for we truly belong amongst the stars. And I guess the 8 billion people of the planet can kind of suck it, I guess. Increase our control point management capacity by 40. Our workers spun off a new organization, Project Exodus Engineers, which is in our faction pool. We'll look at that in a moment. I guess I'm being slightly unfair to Exodus. It could simply be that they believe that other factions are focused on defending Earth and they're the insurance policy, perhaps, for the survival of the species. But we'll see how the story evolves.
It is time for
there we are.
humanity to spread to the stars, Director. And you are the one to lead us there.
Thank you for your vote of confidence, Alashka. Debate has raged as to our next move. Some among our group have insisted it is our responsibility to oppose the alien attempts to gain control over humanity. Others have argued that we should pursue some sort of negotiated solution or peace. Ultimately, though, one faction has prevailed over the others. For the first time in human history, we are on the verge of gaining the ability to leave our solar system and to become a multi-stellar species. All other considerations pale in comparison to this simple fact. Perhaps the aliens will succeed in conquering humanity, perhaps the human forces will resist them. So it's apathy then. But whoever wins, a single planet is irrelevant on a galactic scale. What matters is whether we as a species will spread beyond Earth and our solar system. Several individuals have resigned in protest, but our resolve is clear. The aliens possess the ability to colonize worlds. We must take that ability for ourselves. There is much to be done. Great. I'm going to grab alien movements because that's what lets me pick up their... So let's have a look at the engineers. Unassigned orgs. Who has spare? Our Tycoon. Okay, let's have a look. Project Exodus Engineers. Grants advised control space asset. Monthly income 9 boost. These are always strong, but okay, 9 boost, 4 mission control, 40 science, 1 engineering, 3 admin, so it just pays for itself. 5 science, plus 5% knowledge, 10% funding, 10% space program, 10% boost, 10% mission control, 20% space science, 10% mining output bonus. Let us equip the heck out of that. It won't kick in until next turn, but that's an interesting one. Because from memory, the Humanity First one made you just an absolutely unparalleled killing machine. Your agent, an absolute killing machine when it came to Earth operations. This one is more about the passive incomes. It's a little bit of science, a little bit of engineering, but mostly it's that 9 boost income. So that's going to jump us from 15 boost income to 24 boost income. At a point where we still kind of need boost, because we're not producing nobles and stuff yet, although that will change. So I still have a use for boost. It's not as useful as it would have been a year ago. So maybe if you are Exodus, getting to engineers even quicker. So maybe if I try to get there in 2024 rather than 2025, that would have sped us up even more. But either way, picking up that org, not a bad thing. All right, so I think our geopolitical strategy for India is paying off. We saw the resistance grab 2 control points, which meant I then felt the ability to snipe the executive just in case the servants decide to come out over top. We'll set priorities. I've gone environment, welfare, just to fix up India as much as possible. We can still adjust that until someone else purchases out. At this point, we can abandon India, which will bring us back under CP cap and let us grab. At this point, probably our choice will be between another United States CP, because we're currently running 3. We could go to 4, or alternatively, this could be the time where we go for the UK with a view of absorbing it towards the end of the year. I'm aware that I'm racing forward, but I'm trying to get us deep into 2025, 2026, which is where the strategy around the next phase of the space game plays out. In order to do that, I really need to lay this Mars foundation and get to the point where we can start negotiating a few outcomes. One thing that's interesting to me is if we go to the aliens, I'm keeping an eye on this screen. The aliens they only have 12 ships in service, but this will expand very rapidly because they're getting their mining infrastructure online. What I'm looking for is any sign of an alien ship that is a surveillance destroyer. At the moment, these are all military ships. They're guards or colony ships or whatnot. What I'm looking for, I think the frigates are colony ships, I'm not sure. What I'm looking for are surveillance destroyers that are on their way to Earth, because that will be our trigger for our first military engagement. I do not want to allow those surveillance missions to play out, but once I spot one, I'll explain why. Bingo. So it's now August 2025, a little later than I was expecting. Yes, we are up to base 14 on Mars. So we've gone 14 bases on Luna. I'm up to 4 small space stations around Earth, which I'm building out to research bases. The reason I'm doing that is because all these little labs that I'm adding, I'll add more as the resources become available. I'm at 0.1 boost at the moment. All of these provide little interface bonuses. So information science labs don't just give you 2.5% research speed on tech, for example. They also give you a 3% bonus to the knowledge priority on your Earth nation. So building up those interface bonuses is a good idea, even if it costs mission control to do so. Mars is up to 14, but we've identified our first military threat, or our first military imperative. This is the Bright Star, alien vessel Bright Star, a Crescent Moon class destroyer, and its role is surveillance. What alien surveillance ships do is they don't tend to be particularly well armed or particularly dangerous, but they come to Earth, they fly around, they do surveillance, and if they complete it, it counts as the aliens completing an abduction mission, which their agents normally do one per phase, in every nation in the game. Every nation gets an abduction. And abductions are a key part of the aliens advancing their operations on Earth and advancing, I think they play a role in their tech. It's complicated. We can just do a more detailed discussion of another time and I can check how it currently works. But generally speaking, abductions advance the aliens' plans and the alien tech tree on Earth, so to speak. So you don't want them to happen. We also have an objective to salvage alien technology, and we have another objective to acquire an alien corpse. The corpse we can get from eliminating an agent. And what I really want to do as a priority is find and identify the one in the United States, preferably this year, and eliminate them so they can't mess with my control points here. That would be the most dangerous thing. If a Hydra operative is alive in the United States and they're able to enthrall one of our control points, which Hydra can do with their mind control powers, we could research defenses to them, or we could kill the mind control unit. So that's a priority, and it will also get us our corpse. If I can, I'd like to eliminate all their operatives on Earth. That's a good approach if we can take it, and I don't think that's too aggressive even for Exodus. By the way, because I don't control the executive, I had no influence on the fact the United States is involved in a war with Iran, because Saudi Arabia is allied with the United States, and Saudi Arabia asked the United States to join, and the NPC executive decided that would be a great idea, so the US military is fighting it out in Iran, achieving not so much so far, but we'll see how that plays out. I don't control all the US military, so I'm in a bit of a bind there. So we want to eliminate that surveillance ship. In terms of weapon set, at the moment I only really have the crate, 30mm autocannons, and 6-inch guns. The crate is an adapted Earth anti-ship missile. Researching better missiles is a priority, because I'm not sure if the crate is good enough. So I will push into researching. I'm doing patrol vessels. I didn't control terrestrial military science, but I would also like some better missiles if I can. So the ship designer, we do some basic missiles. For utility modules, we'd put a pair of magazines, which each of these gives a additional 50% ammo load for all weapons, which means this would double the ammo count for the missile batteries. Then we'd slap on a basic radio, a basic battery. We'd keep this thing as light as possible. We'd go armor, probably boron carbide to start with, like that. Slap on like 5 to 8 armor. This thing is like 1,400 tons. Give it enough to have like 3. This is probably luxurious, 3.7 kps, but something like this might work. So if I build 3 shipyards and then pump out 3 very basic gunships, missile-armed gunships with some decent missiles, that's hopefully, I haven't tried this patch, hopefully enough to gun down that destroyer, get us early access to alien tech, and also deny them the surveillance mission. So I'm guessing that means we need to aim to have enough ships in service ready to shoot down an alien destroyer very, very early 2026. When's that arriving? 15 January. Okay, that's our timeline. End January 2026, because I think surveillance missions take a couple of months to do. We need to be ready to shoot this thing down. I think we can do that. So I'll research some better missiles, set up a shipyard. Probably here. I'll expand out this station. I'm unlocking some better solar panels, so I'll put some big solar panels on it, some shipyards, expand it out a bit. Probably 3 shipyards to start with around Earth. Pump out maybe a small squadron and go from there. Okay, there are 2 ships now in construction. I'll show you what I went with to start with. I did make a cardinal mistake though, as I was spamming out designs and experimenting. I forgot to rename the bloody thing. So I'll have to rename the ships manually when I create them. Let's get rid of all these extra ones. I don't need them. I was just playing around and I forgot to name the thing. And it's probably not the best design anyway. We could do better for our next version, but here it is. I also produced 2 of the same type of ship. But after I produce the first 3, I'm going to need to start cycling through different engines just to start crossing more of them off the list. Otherwise, we'll never get through the chemical drives, which will block us from just leveraging better drives later on. But here is our basic early bomber. It has a Nova liquid rocket engine, 11 propellant tanks giving it 4 kps. That is probably overkill, and it means we're spending 100 water, or almost 2/3 of our monthly income per ship, but it's workable. The metal cost, the noble cost, perfectly serviceable. It's got a lot of acceleration, but we won't burn because we have no Delta V. What it does, however, have is 5 forward armor, and most importantly, 2 magazines and 2 Artemis torpedo bays. I used to be Team Copperhead, but I have the feeling that over the series of patches, the Copperhead has been nerfed. It was king in the demo, which is when I originally fell in love with the things, but I'm going to try Artemis torpedoes instead. Compared to the Copperhead, the difference is the Artemis torpedoes do not accelerate as quickly. The Copperheads burn much faster and have larger salvo sizes, but the total delta V of the torpedo is much higher. So the Copperhead will burn very quickly and then stop burning. The Artemis will continue burning. Plus, it does more damage if I interpret that correctly. They're both explosive, but a hit... You get more missiles from the Copperhead, but a hit from a Artemis will give you more than twice the damage output. So an Artemis with a magazine of 12 plus an extra 12 gives us 24 torpedoes. Just checking that's not being factored. Oh, no, there we are. So yeah, magazine of 6 becomes a magazine of 12. So our little 2,000 tonner can carry 24 naval torpedoes. Good enough. So 2 of those are now in construction. We've also done some consolidation in the UK, or we're working towards consolidation in the UK. We've cracked the trade unions and we will purge them out this turn probably, setting us up for a end of year consolidation of the UK into the European Union to bring our CP cap down and enable us to either continue expanding in the EU. I've gone for the Czech Republic to start its countdown, for example. Consolidating the EU, UK would either enable us to go after Sweden and Denmark, 2 protectorate locations, which we could merge into the EU proper, in order to steal another 3 and another 3 mission control respectively. 6 MC is not bad when we only have 84 at the moment. Or to grab more of the United States. We're up to 4. Things are peaceful. Science output's above 600. And as a result, I can breathe a little better with more than 2,000 monthly science output. I'd like that higher. But you always want your science output higher, right? And hopefully adding more science labs around Earth orbit and to Mars will help. But really, it's the tier 2 science labs that we're not quite there yet on that'll really help boost that in a serious way. We have 15 bases on Mars. I've set up 2 bases on Ceres. If we have a look at Ceres, we'll probably want to try and monopolize it and then trade some of them away. But we're going to need to make them defensible. Otherwise, we're going to break our no one dies alone rule. We can't have these be sacrificial the way asteroid bases are, and the only way for that not to be the case is for these to be upgraded and properly defended, or for us to trade them away. If we can't defend them, we have to trade them. Fantastic. What else have we changed? Yes.
Ready.
There'll probably be more renaming later this episode, but let's have a look what's happened to Toby. Toby renamed is now a criminal. He's our only criminal in the lineup, which is why he got the promotion. Everyone else is either nothing, or in most cases, they're government. So we didn't have any coverage of the criminal organizations. Toby is now a criminal journalist. That let him pick up some really good criminal organizations straight out. The Luoyang cartel, which gave him 8 admin points, as well as 42 money income, 3 ops. Like, that is a fantastic org. That's a 3-star that gives 8 admin. Amazing. And we also picked up the much less amazing American Mafia, which is just there as basically a placeholder until we find something else. 50 money income isn't bad. It helps, but this is probably replaceable with anything else. We're also getting more people up to breakpoints of 5 on their science, because every 5-point score on a counselor's science gives you a plus 1% chance to unlock the text that you can otherwise miss. So Calpurnia is a bit short, but as you can see, we are coming along in terms of squeezing up that espionage level. The more the better, basically. Our celebrity is almost at 25. 19 persuasion, not bad. Elaine Kinsella, our astronaut, 20 admin, 13 command, still 5 admin score to go. There may be a little bit more, but he's basically playing Pokemon, got to catch them all when it comes to international military organizations. US 7th Special Forces Group, the Air Force, US Air Force Special Operations Command, GROM from Poland, GIGN from France, the Special Boat Service from the UK. He's got interesting friends, like if he takes the boys out for a drink at a pub, it's going to be an interesting gathering. Don't try and hand out the 0 alcohol beer, let's put it that way. But I'm basically talking around the main point, the reason I came back in at this point. We have discovered our first Hydra operative, Xenoform Alpha 4, which means there are at least 4. I'm not sure if all of them on Earth, but potentially. We've identified 1. I still think there's going to be another one in the United States, so we're going to keep searching. In the meantime, what I can do is take our best investigator, Calpurnia. Ooh, that's not a great success chance. That's not a great success chance. In order to get... Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I'm going to need to do some org juggling, because she's not good enough. She's not good enough to make these hits yet. She's going to need, like, a significant boost, or for these alien operatives to come into an area where we get bonuses from our CPs. There are some places where nations that have like security organization CPs, for example, get a bonus to missions of that kind on their territory. I think Russia, for example, has one of those. Yeah, bonus to crack down, detain, assassinate missions in this nation if you hold it. But we're not in Russia, and we don't control the security apparatus, so we're shit out of luck in that regard. All right, that's more like it. We're in November. I'm going to start to slow down now because my goal with this episode was to get to the point where we were doing more in space and dealing with Hydra operatives, and here we are. So the pace is now going to slow right down. We've identified several Hydra operatives. There is Alpha 5 in Dallas. There is Alpha 4 down in South America, but we identified a turn or two ago. There's Alpha 1 over in Novosibirsk in Russia. So that's happening, and I'm guessing there are more besides. In particular, I think there might be one down in Africa. So at least 4 alien operatives. I have eyes on 3. I can't commit to keeping eyes on 3. So what I'm going to start doing is building up an intelligence picture and preparing for a strike on the most vulnerable one. We're kind of lucky here. Of all of them, the one in the United States is by far the weakest in terms of defense against these sort of ops. Only a 15 espionage, and it's only 13 security. This is quite a vulnerable Hydra. So what we can do is surveil it with a lot of bonuses because we have the local control point bonus. So I can roll 76s. This will let me build up a intelligence picture, which will improve our assassinate odds. And I can also shuffle some orgs, which I've been meaning to do, to try and get this espionage level higher. I think I have some lying around. I might be able to buy some others. Basically, whatever it takes in order to get that espionage level higher, build up that intelligence picture, and then hopefully we can go from 0. I'd like to be taking shots. My ambition is to save up enough ops to be able to take 2 shots at around 30 to 40%. And if we can do that while also using Protect Counselor at the same time, so she doesn't get killed in the response, so we use Protect Target. If we do that, she won't get killed even if she fails. So if I can throw 2 40s in a row, that gives us a relatively good chance of bringing this thing down, which is an absolute imperative given otherwise it's a constant clear and present danger to the United States, which is now our most important research engine. I've also fully secured the United Kingdom and peaced out with the resistance, so they're good with me again. That's due to consolidate in a bit later this month. So we'll consolidate that probably in the first turn of December. But no reason to not play nice with everyone up until this point. In terms of ship construction, all 3 of our initial vessels are in the pipe. 64, 75, and 89 days. So in 90 days, we will have the 3-ship squadron, which is what I'm confident I need in order to take down that destroyer. Okay, we're building up our odds here. Our intelligence bonus is now 3, and Shira's leveled up twice in espionage. We can do better than that. But already, we're at an 18%. So I think with an extra 2 intelligence and another 1 or 2 level ups from Corpse or her experience, we should be getting the goals that I want relatively soon. And for 1st December 2025, that's not bad. The United Kingdom has been absorbed into the EU. Brexit is more than undone at this point. It's spammed an additional army for the European Union, which I'm probably going to disband, 10th Panzer, because if I can't declare offensive wars, and eventually I'm going to have the US military, I don't think it's worth paying the investment point upkeep on this thing. So we're probably, I know German rearmament completed, but we're probably going to disband it anyway. Defund the Bundeswehr. Although I guess it's more Eurocorps now at this point, isn't it? The flip side for the resistance, though, is that our plan to hand off India has worked well. So this is what India works like now. The resistance, when we started purging the UK before we got our non-aggression pact back in place, which I think I have back. Yes, I do. That gave them carte blanche and made them the only faction which both had CP cap free and didn't have a NAP, and so could go after our control points. So the resistance did what I was hoping the AI would do, and have snagged the holdings in India that we had abandoned. So yes, the resistance has lost 2 CPs in the UK, but they've gained almost full control over India. So hopefully now, if they can bring the unrest down, this should serve as an alternative base for them to keep them going. All right, well, I'm probably not going to be able to play that last clip. I just said a bunch of very YouTube unfriendly things, not thinking about it. So, but maybe if I think I should be able to throw the video up and mute the audio. So if hopefully that's about to come up, and you might see why I may have just ruined my own recording there for a moment. So yeah, Shira Calpurnia, the absolute legend that she is, didn't just manage to knock off the Hydra operative with her first go, meaning I didn't have to dump my second set of ops in. She managed to do it with a bloody crit, meaning I don't get any hate. The difference between a crit success and a success on assassination is whether or not they know it was you, and the Hydra know their person was knocked off or their agent was knocked off, but they don't know we did it. They'll know when we knock off their spaceship relatively soon, but they don't know we were the one that took out their first operative. So, yeah. And I was rather surprised when I saw that and said some things that YouTube probably wouldn't approve of. So let's leave that there and slow down and move on. Because I did say the goal of this episode was to try and zoom through to 2026 and then play out a few steps in detail. So it's probably a good idea to basically stock take our situation now and talk about where we are and what we're trying to do. We've knocked off a Hydra operative, and specifically we've knocked off one in the States, which is fantastic. Elaine, you're probably better off closing out that investigation than idling where you were. We've knocked off a Hydra, which means we can now research Hydra biology, and we also need to salvage technology. Biology will do after we finish Common Cause, probably, which will give us a few more CP, which gives us room to start expanding in Europe again. Shira is available to start cracking down and purging Sweden, so the next 4 turns will be her taking over Sweden. Then she's probably going to take over Denmark, and then we might think about going after another Hydra operative on the ground if we spot them. We also will probably have the cap available to consider going for point number 5 in the United States at some point, because taking over the executive would give us diplomatic control, which is a major point, but we're not quite there yet. I'm feeling the lack of counselors, so I'm really hoping that we can work through the tech tree. I'm doing advanced atomic manipulation because putting us on the route to this tech here, quantum encryption. This is what we need to get our next counselor. It's also on the way to quantum encryption is in the same pathway. Quantum computing gets us to directed space research, which we'd do first. This is our tier 2 research labs. We want this one. To get quantum computing, we need advanced atomic manipulation. So we're going bang, 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 using that research slot, aiming for new scientific facilities and also for an additional counselor, which doubles up as more control points, which means consolidating more countries, which means even more research. Fantastic. In terms of what the countries are doing, European Union's filling out our mission control again. A little bit of Unity just to experiment with what it does to public opinion, but I'll probably get rid of that. Other than that, a little bit of knowledge investment for the moment, just filling out mission control. Whereas for the United States, the priority has been to drag down inequality, because it's a major drag on cohesion. We're getting there. I'd like to get this to medium, and it's changing. Another year or so, we should have this as medium, not high, but basically optimizing the US for research output more than anything else. I did find that I could increase the cohesion of the European Union, which has been dragged down to a base value of 4.5. 5 is probably ideal from a research perspective. And I did that because I discovered that I remembered that one way you get cohesion bonus is by having near peer or peer rivals. So I rivaled the NPC China, which instantly gave the Europeans a cause to rally around and bumped their rest cohesion up to 4.5. So this should drift up over time, optimizing our research a little bit further. In terms of the space game, what I've done is probably easier if we go to our Habs menu, and then we'll have a look at what the other factions have done. I have set up a series of facilities. One of these is around, and they're labeled. One is a shipyard facility that's going up around Mars. The rest are all around Earth. There's 6 low Earth orbit stations, Tiangong, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 is a shipyard with 3 stations. 3 is a xenology facility. And then 4, 5, and 6 are mixed facilities, with 6 being our secondary shipyard. It's also going to have space docks, so we can produce 6 ships around Earth at the same time if we need to. Plus, we're going to get a whole bunch of interface bonuses. We've started to increase our research multipliers, but they're still awful. To help augment that, all my Mars bases had additional power from the fission pile. It takes 9 power to run the outpost mining complex, which means they all have 11 free. 11 is enough to run 2 small science labs. It's not much, but it's like 10 science per Mars outpost, plus a 5% total bonus to tech somewhere. So I'm filling out all of those Mars installations, and I'm also this turn going to approach other factions. I'm going to dedicate narrowly to doing this. I'm going to try and keep the Protectorate from going completely apeshit on me as I throw them out of Sweden. That means giving them a little bit of money each turn, just make sure they're not too in opposition to me. But what I'm keeping an eye out for is Humanity First Councillors, because I am way overcommitted on mining bases, and if we look at the resource counts, Humanity First is lagging behind in space resources. They're doing well on Earth, but they're not doing well in space. The Protectorate is arguably doing the best of any of the factions, which I don't like. On Earth, that is, in terms of science output. But the Academy is by far leading in space. That comes down to the bases that they have. We go to the Habs menu. As you can see, I have many in various stages of completion. And what I can do with my mission control cap is if I'm able to hand off any bases that I don't want anymore, I can use that to upgrade the settlement cores. I haven't rushed that because I was proceeding on the basis of an old patch. In the old days, mines cost 1 MC, and then level 2 cost 2, and the level 3 cost 3, and the center core also cost different levels of mission control. The point is tier 2 settlements and mines used to be very expensive. That has apparently changed. The base level costs 2 and the mine costs nothing, so it costs 2 MC to have a level 1 base. And the level 2 base only costs 3. So the difference is now no longer 5 versus 2, it's 3 versus 2. So you can bet we'll be upgrading as many of our stations as we can within the hate limit. I don't really want to go over low 70s in terms of MC utilization, and we have 3 ships in the pipeline. We also have more mines being built than we can do with our allowed mine tech. So selling off bases, it's time. The first ones to go will probably be the low yield lunar base will probably go first, which is Artemis. So if we can hand that off to humanity first, I will. It'll also bootstrap them into space resources, which would be good for them. And then we might want to sell off some low-yield Mars bases as well in order to make room for more upgrades, which hopefully we will get to in a minute.
And I'm also guessing at this point is where the sound in the episode is going to switch over. So if you prefer this the way the first half was recorded, please do let me know. And I'll take that into advisement going forward as I continue to try and refine how we record this. Let's crack our way into Sweden and wait for that first ship to come out of the shipyard. What's this? New project available, Hydra biology. We will get that as soon as Common Course is done. More Mars bases completed, and there it is, the first human warship launch. Now we may defend our interests against those who would oppose us in the high ground of space. 200 influence. We will rename it in a moment, but Echo 1, the fleet Echo 1, has been created. We won't send it out alone, but just in time though, because on 15th of January, Victor 6 will be arriving in Earth orbit, and I want to be ready for it.
Will not
Hey, Banerjee, take one money from me because I'm about to steal a country from you. Dumbo drive, we will need that. It's awful, but we will use it.
We're winning their hearts and minds.
Thank you, 23% approved.
Things are stabilizing.
Skunk Works. All right, no, Skunk Works gets bumped to the top of the list. Skunk Works gives you engineering cogs, which speeds up these engineering projects and also unlocks a third slot. So Skunk Works, absolute top priority once it becomes available. Should have a crackdown popping here in a moment. There's the Common Cause, so we have plenty of CP cap. Where is Skunk Works? There it is. We need that. This is good. We'll finish the fission reactors and Skunk Works at the same time. We're going to put our Skunk Works on Mars, is basically the way this is going to go.
Their control is full.
There goes the crackdown in Sweden. But as long as we keep bribing Mr. Banerjee, he should turn the other cheek, despite the fact
The
we're
final
stealing influence
frontier
from him.
proved a bit underwhelming.
There
no?
goes mission to Venus.
Veni Vidi Vici is great, but how do you say I leased it at triple market rate in Latin? Chairman Soren van Beek comments to CNN.
I don't know, but you call that well played, I'm sure. Industrialization of space is happening. So mission to Venus is complete. That should have increased the number of mines we can have. No? Does it not? I thought it did. Maybe I've gotten that wrong. Either way, industrialization of space, it's good that that's coming. This is the construction modules, which enables you to actually set up shop properly and build locally rather than having to ship everything out the hard way. So I will take that and we'll roll forward until the rest of our warships are ready. And we'll go Sweden, Denmark, and then maybe the United States at some point. Okay, we should be about to contact humanity first and the Protectorate.
We will not
Protectorate,
obstruct your exodus. As
because
much
I
as
just took
we
their stuff
might
in Sweden, I'm going to take
disapprove.
more.
Establishing contact.
Here we go. Okay.
Your little science project
Hans Castillo doesn't want to give us intelligence sharing.
The technologies
However,
you're developing will be useful in the fight
we give him
against the
Artemis
invaders.
Base. I could also give him Hubble or Somerville on Mars, which is an idea. Which one of those? I can't really check, can I? I can. Habs. Exodus. So he wants either Hubble or Somerville. Hubble is a big water production. I'm not super keen to give that away straight away, but we might. Somerville is also a big water site. Okay, so he's after water production. Let's give him, and Kepler is the original site, and I think the richest on Mars. So let's give him Artemis for now. He says that's a generous trade. We should be able to get an org from him in return. I'll find something useful. Like even these 10% sciences are not bad. But I'll have a look through what he's got, pick something, and then we should have our intelligence sharing set up with humanity first, and their space economy should be in a better place. Okay, in the end, we got a level 3 laboratory with a 15 social science boost, 2 science and 40 science. 2 science skill and 40 science output, and a +2 intelligence, +1 espionage org. So we'll take that. It's a fair trade. Complete. And instantly what I will do is I will then jump over to Mars, and I will pick 2 sites that are reasonably high output, that are not already being upgraded. Let's pick one water-heavy one. And who's really heavy on metals? Is Scaparelli already being upgraded? It is. I mean, maybe this... What about Tharsis Montez? It is. So... Olympus Mons, I'm guessing, yep, okay. I'm upgrading a lot of these sites. We'll also need to upgrade the series locations. That might be a go as well. But let's go here. And some more nobles from Arcus Terra. Done. All right, that takes us up to 72. We'll go to 73 once the final ship completes, which is at the upper end of the range, but acceptable. And now we're getting intelligence from both Humanity First and the Resistance. And Humanity First will now go positive on water. They'll be slightly negative on volatiles, but they're positive on metals. So they will be able to start getting into space. Next trade with them, I might give them another base and definitely some space resources. Even if I just gave them like 40 nobles, if I gave them 40 nobles and 40 volatiles, they would fill out their they would be able to fill out their mission control much faster because they wouldn't have to lift anything. So that might be the go. And here we go, we have our first squadron. The Discretion, the Retreat, and the Departure. 3 missile boats, each equipped with Artemis torpedoes, and I think we have our first target. There is Victor 6, low Earth orbit. We won't spend Delta V intercepting them quickly. We'll do 0.11. Transfer. Let's go get ourselves some alien technology. Because while we might not be overly wedded to the state of the world when we leave, we do need alien technology in order to keep progressing. We're not going to get out of the solar system using our tech alone. We're going to need their FTL or whatever it is they use. To do that, we're going to start through the very human approach of blasting the thing in question apart and then dissecting its innards. Here we are. Okay, engage. We have combat strength 30, they have 315, so hopefully they'll bite. Start battle. So what we're going to do, classic missile tactics. We're not going to maneuver. We don't have the ability to maneuver. We have no side armor. We're going to maximize initial velocity. Before we unpause, we're going to lock on. We're going to point the nose at them because they presumably have weapons. And then we'll group command, set primary target, and that's pretty much all we should need to do. I'll shut the missiles down after we fire a couple of... Actually, no, there are no alien ships in orbit, so we don't need to worry about conserving missiles. So we're just going to volley fire all of the torpedoes at once. There they go. Artemis torpedoes away. Solid volley. This should be massive overkill. Torpedoes burning in. Hey, look. The monkeys have figured out how to throw heavy objects in space. Welcome to bloody Earth. That looks like I could have done it with 2 ships, but three made me feel more confident. Bang. No surveillance for you. This will almost certainly trigger retaliation, and that is okay. We're not going to sit around and just let them rack up the abductions. Let's see what we get for that. Well done, team. Hopefully you have enough fuel to make it back to the station. We got a tiny amount. Following officers have been promoted. An engineering officer on the retreat. I'm going to see what that is. I think that's new. We had a tiny amount of resources, a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of exotics, but we salvaged alien spacecraft. Although we've been able to some extent, study alien technology before now, to have access to one of their craft in its entirety is a godsend to science. This is how they access our skies. This is how they travel within the solar system. This is what we must learn from, and perhaps even emulate if we are to truly do the same ourselves. Sizable quantity of materials that defy categorization. Something that's different from our technology. If we can understand it, the potential is beyond words. We've received a treasure trove of extraterrestrial technology, a raft of machines, basic functionality eludes us, metals whose structure is wildly familiar. We have so much to learn from every last fragment of this haul, for it surely represents the technological apex of a species that has somehow found a way to travel from their far distant world to ours.
This is the break we've been waiting for, Director. Our teams are ready to unlock its secrets.
And he's very happy. Success. Even damaged or incomplete, the pieces of alien tech we've managed to recover from the battlefield have proven a treasure trove, opening up dozens of avenues of research. One reason I wanted to do this early is the techs, unless they've changed it, the techs that allow you to have more mission control without going over the hate cap are tied to require you to have got alien technology. I'll remind myself what exact techs are required, but I'm pretty sure we needed to do this in order to increase this limit. Otherwise, our economy was going to stagnate. Research alien technology when it becomes available. Oh, and recovered an alien avian corpse. This is a griffin. And we got 500 influence for defeating the aliens in a space battle. Marvelous. They're pissed off, and they're going to come for us, but that's okay. Launched at Leo 2 SY, and yes, with 1.5 KPS in reserve, they can make it, and then we'll repair and resupply on arrival. I'm going to spend less Delta V because Delta V for me is water, which we have a limited supply of, so we will transfer them back to Earth. And then as soon as Fission Reactor and Skunk Works complete, we have some construction to do on Mars. And I just wait now for the announcement of the first alien retaliation, as inevitable as it is. Oh, apparently the servants didn't like that. No more non-aggression.
Our people have taken control.
But you know what? I'll take it. All right, here's my little Humanity First stimulus package. We'll make that 100 metal. 100 metal, 20 nobles, make that 30 nobles. This should be enough to get them, let's go 5 fissile materials, 10. This should be enough to get them moving a little bit faster, but we'll also trade them some bases once more of our mining is complete. Mars is filling up, like very much so. And this was the idea. We get to control who mines on Mars because we're the ones establishing the initial bases. So for example, the one we just finished there, Cassini. I don't know if that's one of our more impressive ones. Oh, it's decent, it's got good metals. But we'll hand off some of these really middling bases. And I'm going to check what allows me to build more mines, because otherwise we are going to be over that limit soon, and I'm going to have to shut those mines down to avoid MC cap bloat and the aliens becoming very, very mad. These are our first Skunk Works sites on Mars. They're going to be not the most efficient in terms of cost, but because the my understanding is enemy agents can infiltrate Skunk Works in order to steal and sabotage your technology, which makes them a potential weakness. One way to mitigate that weakness is to put them on Mars. I'm also going to flag a hydroponics bay here because that's going to be upgraded to a farm. So I've just put 10 Skunk Works into construction. That should get us up to above a plus 100% bonus. I might go to 15 Skunk Works, but I'm also hoping to leave some space for additional research labs as well. So I'm going to go through and do some of those chain upgrades. I'm also going to check the breakpoints because there are diminishing returns eventually. But I'm starting to think it may actually be worth going to 15 Skunk Works. That might be a good number. And I think we got a random event. We must consider space coffee a key resource. Space workers have long been condemned to drink poor quality freeze-dried coffee. This changed for a brief glorious period when ISS Espresso, the first espresso machine designed for use in space, was installed in the ISS in 2015. The experiment was successful but ended only 2 years later, relegating astronauts back to instant coffee. Now, with the current need to vastly expand humanity's space presence, there is now a greater need than ever to properly brew coffee in space. A replacement to ISS Espresso is needed. How should it be done? 1% research output, 300 cash and 5 boost for a permanent 2% research output. And then we don't have access to these ones because one is for the initiative and one is for extremist factions. 2% science output for 300 cash, one-off payment every day of the week. And Iran is being wrecked by the US, even though I'm not in control of the US executive, but you know, it is what it is.
Mission complete.
Unification, Czech Republic. Our crackdown in our abandon in the Gulf states ended without anyone else taking it over. So we've temporarily got that back, but we will be leaving them again soon as we take over Denmark to make room for them and for the United States. But for the moment, Czech Republic, welcome to the team. We're also converting, now we've just unlocked settlement mines, which is the tier 2 mine, which means for a lot of our Martian bases, now that these don't cost mission control, they just cost additional cash upkeep. So we are paying for the privilege of the additional output. But getting an extra, paying 24 cash a month in order to get all of those additional resources seems like a good deal. I won't be able to upgrade everything at the same time, but I will go through and get most of these. I don't want to shut them all off at the same time, obviously. but there is probably a reason to put through a lot of these, get these numbers up. These are rookie numbers. They are going down, though, because I've already shut off some of my earliest mines in order to start the upgrade process. It's an 80-day process, complete with the power upgrades, and we should also be seeing the Skunk works come online in May as well. So all of these upgrades, May, June, is when you should see a massive boost in our research and resources. Until then, we're going to look a little bit skint. And with one alien in the dirt, one surveillance ship splashed, albeit with another one on the way, October this year, and the number of alien ships slowly increasing, I think that's where we're going to call it. Our economy at this point is taking a bit of a dip as we go through a massive upgrade cycle, which is draining our wallets, draining our reserves, and draining our incomes, but that should come around relatively quickly. In fact, if anything, our economy is probably expanding faster than we can afford for it to because of a combination of MC limits and that mine limit. So we might have to hand off more stations as they complete next episode. In terms of how everyone else is going, we've given Humanity First a bit of a kick, but they are still behind some of the others. The clear leaders in space, but hey, as you can see, at least we're giving them something to work with. We might have to hand them some more equipment. The ones who are really doing well are the Academy, who have got bases heading out to a variety of asteroids, although most of these won't start mining until late 26, early 27. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 asteroid bases, plus they have a Mars base on Phobos, already creating water and volatiles. They've gone to the moon, they're going to Venus for reasons. The Protectorate has a mine on the moon, Deimos mining around Mars, and have started an asteroid base, which is going to produce volatiles. The Servants are a little slower, 1 mine on the moon, plus nothing. Well, they're started on the base hub for an asteroid base. The Initiative is just on 1 asteroid, mining 2027 and the moon. Humanity First is mining the moon twice, which will give them just small incomes. One's doing base metals, one's doing metals, volatiles, and water. So they've put small incomes. They got stations up. So we probably need to hand them at least 1 Mars mining base to get them back on track. And then the Resistance has got Mars, Mars, Mars. Oh, and the moon. So they're actually already mining on Mars, which is probably helping them expand. And then they got late 26, August 20, so mid and late 26 for 2 additional Mars mines. So the AI is behind us, but they're not that far behind us. There may be 2 years. No, there may be a year behind us because we were mining in mid-2025. The Resistance has already started in mid-2026. So the AI is only about a year behind us in terms of getting resources pumped out into orbit, but we're also functioning well on the diplomatic front. We have non-aggression and intelligence sharing with Resistance Humanity First, non-aggression Initiative Academy, tolerance Servants, and I'm going to have to keep bribing the Protectorate because I'm trying to steal their stuff, remember? I'm trying to steal their country. So they're going to need continuous gifts and buttering up in order to avoid going to war with me, but I can handle that. I hope you're enjoying. I'm probably going to do 1 more episode on this sound setup before I decide which one I'm going to go with ultimately, and of course I'm going to keep tweaking. But I hope you're enjoying. I'll see you all again next episode.